Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we are going to be getting into 5 brand new release reviews. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with a movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. I also want to touch on the availability of these titles, as I have personally went to each one of the sites and verified that these movies are available. And if you are having trouble seeing them, well, most likely reason is you are region locked. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at a couple new releases. Now, I know that not all of these are brand new, but the aim of the series is going to be to kind of just do new release reviews every week or two. I do have quite a backlog because I'm just kind of getting back into this 2 videos a week, or not even back into it. I'm just trying to do it. So yeah, there's going to be this kind of midweek content. And then of course, we're going to have the freshies every weekend. So what we're going to be doing is, even though we're trying to keep the movies within the last few years, I am going to be adding in just a couple of my old kind of backlogged reviews, all still new releases, but just not as new as from the new movie series. And once we catch up, then it will kind of be reviewing like movies that we just talked about like the last week type of thing. I also wanted to make sure that it was clear that these are just short reviews. That's why the video is just kind of a short little bite for the midweek. These are not deep dive reviews. I'm not getting into like the inner motivations of characters. I don't really like to do that. Again, this is kind of more movie discovery, so the reviews will just be like short and to the point and kind of just give you, a reason of whether or not you'd want to kind of check these movies out, or if you think you might want to skip them. So another thing I did want to cover in this video is I did want to kind of go over scoring, because I know sometimes people kind of don't like the fact that I don't give a lot of 9s and 10s, and I've got a great video next week on why I don't give a bunch of 9s and 10s, along with some movies that I do consider 9s and 10s. But I did want to kind of go over the scoring, because I think that in nowadays kind of day and age, even with me actually, like before I really started to try to get serious about reviewing, and don't get me wrong, I am not a pro here. Like these are just my like overall feelings after the movie. I'm not trying to be like extreme about it. I'm just trying to tell you guys whether the movie was good, and then kind of keep a benchmark for myself of the best movies or what movies are really good. So I find that nowadays it's like when it comes to reviewing, I find that if people don't give an 8 or a 9 to a movie, it's almost like it's a slight or the movie isn't good. So I don't agree with that. And same with 1 or a 2. Like, just because you think the movie's bad, to immediately give it a 1 or a 2, that seems a little bit unhinged. Well, not unhinged, but a little bit, because I don't know, like take example, a movie like Imaginary, right? Like I could suggest, if you didn't like that movie, I would say that it was a 4, but a 2, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's way worse movies. But anyways, I digress. Let's go over the scoring just to be clear on exactly kind of what I mean by each of the scores. So a 4 is a watchable movie. And I do want to repeat that. 4 is watchable. Like, it's not good, but I didn't walk out. I didn't turn it off. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would have considered it a complete waste of time. It just wasn't that good, right? Like, it just wasn't great. So that's a 4. So a 5 is middle of the road. That's mediocre. That's average. Anything average isn't bad. It's average. So I just want to kind of temper some expectations here. 6 is decent. And these are my scores. Like, this has nothing to do with anything, man. I made up my own because this is how I wanted to kind of rate things. So for me, I guess I should preface it with that. For me, 6 is decent. So, a decent movie. To get a 6 means it was decent. Like, that is actually worth a watch. Like, once you get to 6, in my opinion, it's worth a watch, right? Like, I'm not saying go out and watch it now. I'm not saying it's going to be your favorite movie, but it's worth a watch, right? So 7 is like a good movie. So when I say it's a 7, man, that means like watch it. Or, I mean, if you have my same tastes, right? That's always a huge important point of, reviewing is that if you don't share my tastes, then you're just going to think I'm out to lunch. But a 7 is good. 8 is great. Once you get to 8s, man, that starts to be kind of like my movie of the year. You know, like 8s are great movies. I may even tell people who don't watch horror movies to watch 8s, right? Or who don't like them specifically. Like an 8 is a good mainstream, doesn't even have to be mainstream, but just a good movie worth watching to anybody. Now we get to kind of more of the unicorns. 9. So 9 is amazing. Now 9, we're starting to talk about, like, for me, 9 and 10, because 9 is amazing and then 10 is amazing plus. And the reason why it's amazing plus is not a cop-out. It's because nothing's perfect. So flawless, like to not have a flaw, a single flaw, maybe. Hey, and if you are one of the very few movies that, in my opinion, have not a single flaw, then you'll get a 10. But right now, 10 is reserved for an amazing movie that pushes the genre forward for me, or it defines how I think about horror, or the things that I think are possible in horror, right? And so, like I said, next week I'll have a good kind of example in my next week's video on exactly what I believe is a 9 or a 10, but that's kind of the scale. So when I say a movie is a 7, a 6, 5, that means watchable. That's a decently to good movie, man. That's like, in a world of, you know how it is, trying to find good horror, man. In a world of that, like, decent is like, sweet, man, sign me up. So I just don't want people to get caught up on the fact that I'm not giving out these 9s or 10s. And honestly, I would listen more to the review and the words of it, because even though they're short, it may be like an indicator. Like if I say, hey man, this was a great bloody slasher with a lot of practical gore. Well, if you don't like slashers or you don't like gore, like it really doesn't matter if I gave it a 9, right? Maybe you might be like, you know what? It's a 9 and I don't prefer them, so I'm going to give this one a try because you're watching the best of them. But again, like, the words are kind of more important than the scores, but I'm going to give my scores and stand behind them because I think it gives us something to talk about in the comments. You could tell me if I'm out to lunch. You could be like, bro, man, you smoking too much, or whatever you want to say in the comments. Don't worry, because when we review movies or anything, like, I'll tell you right now in the comments, when I talk about a movie, 5 people say it sucks, 5 people say it's their favorite movie, man, and they're back to back. So it is all subjective. We're trying to be objective as possible, but it is subjective in opinion, and just my opinion, not even yours. And I'm not here to argue with you, man. If I say Imaginary is a 5.5 and you think it's a 2, well, I'm not here to argue with you. I think that we're going to run into problems of consistency when I show you real 2s, because then you're going to have to say that got the same score as Imaginary, right? So that's why I do the numbers, because I like to kind of hopefully give some parity between things or between the films. So anyways, this intro has gone on way too long. And yes, these midweek vlog videos will have maybe not long, but they will have monologues. I promise I'll always get to some movies. There'll always be some movie picks in my videos. That's kind of the point. But hey, the new movie video is like, let's just get right to it. People want to learn that. And, you know, but these ones, you know, a little bit more discussion. So if you wanted me to cover anything or talk about anything specifically, these are the videos where I'll do it. So anyways, I've talked quite a bit, so I'm going to like wrap it up quickly and we're going to get to some movies. So the first movie we're going to review this week is a 2025 comedy fantasy horror named Death of a Unicorn. And this movie is available on Google Play, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV. A father and daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn while en route to a weekend retreat, where his billionaire boss seeks to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties. It is directed by Alex Sharfman. Okay, so the final score that I gave this movie was a 7.5 out of 10, and I've got to say, I did think that Death of a Unicorn is a solid comedy horror. It really leans hard into its comedy side, so I wouldn't expect traditional creeps and scares. Now, while the unicorns did have a gnarly look and it did have a couple of jump scares, this movie just wasn't creepy in the traditional sense. Still, I found the movie did a good job of keeping things fun and bloody. Now, speaking to the gore in this movie, it's pretty good, and although we didn't get like wall-to-wall carnage, what we did get was brutal and satisfying. Now, I do like to give my horror movies a sub-score on gore and creeps and scares. So for this one, I usually do that out of 5, and I would give this movie a 2.5 for the gore. But really with the kills, like the kills themselves, they really punch above their weight, and I would give those specifically a 3.5. Because honestly, man, when it comes to the kills in this movie, some of those moments, they really do hit hard. The production for this one is definitely top tier. It's a big budget movie with slick, stylish cinematography. The cast is stacked and everybody really did bring their A game. Paul Rudd, for example, delivers some really sharp, witty lines, but I did think that Will Poulter absolutely stole the show. I just thought that he was hilarious throughout the whole movie with a consistently good comedic timing. I always found him funny, but I think this might be one of his better performances. Now, as for the unicorns, yeah, sure, they're 100% CGI, but I felt that this was CGI done right. They really have this weight and gravity as they move through the world, and just how they interact with the sets, it just makes them feel real and believable. I thought that the effects team in this one really did a good job of kind of nailing that CGI blend with more of a physical presence. I thought that the story was a surprise too, because for an A24 film, I just found that this movie was surprisingly straightforward and pretty compelling. I really liked that it touched on themes of like capitalism and legacy, and it just felt like a real movie, not just like some goofy one-off. I found that it did a good job of actually having like a little bit of depth without losing its fun. Now, the only warning or caveat I would give to this movie is that if you're coming into it expecting something super scary, I don't think it's going to scratch that itch. But for what it basically is, which is like a gory, kind of dark comedy, I think this movie is good for what it is, and it earns a spot on your watch list.
What exactly are we saying this is, though?
I think we know exactly what it is.
A horse-like mammalia.
With some sort of protrusion or growth.
It's a fucking unicorn.
I don't think I should be in swim shorts for this moment.
The next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2022 comedy thriller horror by the name of The Menu. And this movie is available on Disney Plus and Crave.
It's okay.
No, we're gonna die tonight.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
A young couple travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises. It is directed by Mark Mylod. The final score that I gave this movie was a 7, and I gave The Menu a 7 because I thought it was a smart horror, but it leans a lot on kind of that dark comedy aspect and really doesn't focus much on creeps or scares. And even though it really isn't trying to be creepy, it makes up with it with like a solid cast, great production, and a story that slowly builds in an interesting way. I thought that the humor was clever and pretty subtle, mostly coming through on the dialogue, which I really did like. The ending felt a little bit over the top, but it worked well with the tone of the movie. Overall, it is a dark kind of horror comedy that I'd recommend, especially if you're not in the mood for something like super scary. I think this one earns a spot on your watch list.
We'll endeavor to make your evening as pleasant as possible.
Welcome to Hawthorne.
Here we are family. We harvest, we ferment, we gel.
They gel.
We gel.
Next movie we're going to look at is a 2024 horror mystery thriller named Cuckoo. And this movie's available on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Google Play.
Consider yourself lucky.
A 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. It is directed by Tillman Singer. So the final score that I gave this movie was a 6.5, and I gave Cuckoo a 6.5 because I thought it was a pretty solid psychological horror. Now, it's not super scary, but there's definitely some creepier moments, especially with how a few of the characters sound and look. Now, when it comes to gore in the film, there's barely any gore in this one, maybe just like a little bit of blood here and there. I thought that the acting in this one was solid across the board, and the story really was a standout for me. It felt unique and did a good job of kind of revealing things bit by bit, which really helped keep me interested. Overall, it's got a strong plot, good performances, and a great atmosphere. Cuckoo is a pretty good movie and is definitely worth checking out on your watch list.
I'm your neighbor. I haven't heard about you.
Why would you have heard about me?
How would you like to come work for me at the resort?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2024 drama horror sci-fi named A Quiet Place Day One. And this movie is available on Paramount Plus, Google Play, and Apple TV. A young woman named Sam finds herself trapped in New York during the early stages of an invasion by alien creatures with ultra-sensitive hearing. It is directed by Michael Sarnowski. Now, the final score that I gave this one was a 7.5, and that's because I thought that A Quiet Place Day One was a great horror movie with tension throughout. It kicks off with an awesome world-ending scene, and it really doesn't slow down after that. Now, there was a lot of solid jump scares in the movie with the way that these creatures would just kind of leap out, and from what I remember, none of them felt really contrived or cheap. Now, when it comes to the gore in the film, it's not super gory, like you're not getting any kind of bloody entrails being ripped out or anything, but there is a lot of kind of bloody chaos and destruction that really does work. Now, just like the other films, I thought that the aliens looked great, and just seeing them kind of in these bigger numbers in this like tight city setting just made them like way more intense and terrifying. Now, the acting and production were both on point, and I really liked the characters. The main character was surprisingly dynamic, especially considering that there's like barely any dialogue in the movie. And her motivation, it was compelling and actually moving. And it gave the whole story this like good emotional weight. All in all, A Quiet Place Day One is a good, tense horror film that's definitely worth a spot on your watch list. All right, guys, last movie we're going to review this week is a 2025 comedy horror mystery named Hard Eyes. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. For the past several years, the Heart Eyes killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. It is directed by Josh Rubin. Now, the final score that I gave this movie was a 6, and Hard Eyes got a 6 because this is a pretty solid, gory slasher that just grabbed me right away with its raunchy humor and fast, bloody start. In terms of scares, it really does lean on jump scares more than doing anything truly terrifying, but to its credit, a few of them did land well. It was really low on the creep factor though, so nothing really stuck with me after watching the film. Now, when it came to the gore, it's definitely a highlight, and it scratches that itch for like in-your-face violence. Just amongst the kind of pretty bloody, brutal kills, I wish there was just a little bit more creativity. I also thought that the acting and production was pretty strong in this one. The characters were well played, and the whole production just has this kind of slick 90s, 2000s vibe to it, even all the way up to the music and how the sound kind of built up to the kills. So that gave me a little bit of a good nostalgic feeling. Now, where the film does dip down to a 6 is because of the story. Like, it's not horribly bad, but there were just a couple of really cheesy moments that just like pulled me out of it. Like, I mean, yeah, we're horror fans, and sure, there's some movies where I'm watching demons levitating people, but some of the stuff was just so like cheesy and unbelievable that it really did kind of make you roll your eyes. And there was a few times that me and my girl kind of exchanged that kind of seriously look throughout the film. The film also tries to build and give you this mystery, but I did kind of figure it out right away. And Adri thought I was kind of shooting the moon, so that kind of little fun I told you so moment at the end was really satisfying. All in all, Hard Eyes is a fun kind of turn off your brain slasher. And it's really not breaking new ground, but if you're in the mood for something kind of silly and funny and bloody, then this one does deserve a spot on your watch list.
Masked maniac known as the Hard Eyes Killer has stalked,
hunted, and brutally slain couples on Valentine's Day.
With no motive yet uncovered.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of reviewing some new releases. I hope you guys like this content, and if you did find a gem or two for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. So if I had to make a couple of picks this week, and usually I'm only going to make one in this type of a video as we are only looking at 5 movies, but that being said, I'm going to be my usual superfluous self and kind of make 2 picks. And the picks are going to be kind of a tie between Death of a Unicorn and A Quiet Place Day One. And the reason why I think they're both worth consideration, because they're both really good movies, but I think you have very different moods for them. And unfortunately, none of my picks are really for the person who wants to be scared, but when it comes to Death of a Unicorn, you've got that really kind of, I don't want to go as far as to say heartwarming, but it is kind of a full story. It's got good comedy, really good brutal kills to it. So you get some funniness there and just some brutality. So that movie is pretty good if you're in the mood for something more kind of funny, comedy-ish. But if you want something a little bit more heart-racing, right? I don't think you're getting it from Death of a Unicorn. That's where I think you're getting it from A Quiet Place Day One, which is just like a really tense, like, oh my God, like me and my girl were just like looking at each other time and time again at these like extreme close calls and just really tense moments. So again, I think those are 2 really good movies for different moods. So those are going to be my picks of the week. Well, guys, that's it for me. I'm going to get out of here as I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I wanted to remind you guys, if you think that my opinions are dog shit, or maybe, okay, so that's a little bit kind of over the top. If you just even think I'm wrong or you have a different take on something, make sure you let me know, man. I want to know kind of the moods of people. I know there's going to be people who agree and disagree. That's the nature of it. So don't worry about it, man. If you really liked a movie, maybe I'll give it a second look with a different eye. So there is some useful discussion to be had in these review videos. But other than that, honestly, guys, I am out of here. I hope you guys have been taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Your family belongs here.
That's a fucking weird way to put it.